Okay, good. Okay, so looking at the default analytics dashboard for the catalog, there are two graphs in it. One is the most active product and the other is the most active API. So what we do over the time period is this is just a count of the number of API events containing each of the products in this catalog. And what we do then is take the top 5 and we put them into a graph in a histogram that shows on a daily basis how many API events have occurred for those product or for that for each of the products in the product one, and similarly for the APIs in the API one. When you look at the dashboard, you can see that this is the catalog overview dashboard because it has the catalog name and the title of overview, and you'll see that that changes when we look at the scope dashboards. So if I go to the products page, and this time we choose one of the scope dashboards, so we'll start with a product scope dashboard, then you can see that what we have now is we have the catalog name and the dashboard, the product name in the title of the dashboard. One thing that you can see here, which will change in the very near future, we want to hide this bar that's got the filter on it. So this green box, the filter, will be hidden, and we will be giving an icon on the right that will allow you to expose the bar and to collapse it again. It's not in the GA version of the product, but just if you see these green boxes in this demo and then you install one of the first fix packs and suddenly it's not there anymore, that's the reason why. There will be an icon to the right of the time picker in this bar at the top. Okay, so looking at a product dashboard, you can see we've got a simple metric giving the number of developer organizations, the number of API calls that have been made against API events in this product over the time period, which in this case is the last 7 days. We can also see a breakdown of the apps called per plan. So in my accessories product, I only have one plan, which is the default plan. It's represented by the piece in the middle of the circle, and the bits on the outside represent the individual apps that have actually called that plan. What I can do is, just to make it a little more interesting, is go to one of my other products, which on that particular graph you can see here we have 2 plans. Online shops is the purple and surf shops is the green, and now you can see the apps that are subscribed to the online shops plan, and this app here is subscribed to the surf shops plan. Okay, and then we give a simple histogram at the bottom that just shows you the number of API calls per day over the time period. Okay, looking at an API-specific graph, let's take shoes. Who's been looking at shoes? Right, so in this one here, we can see all a pie chart showing the breakdown of the status codes. The big purple one is 200 OKs, and then you can see we've had a couple of 201 creates and some internal 500 internal server errors, some request timeouts, and some 429 too many requests. The graph on the right is effectively the same data, but shown on a daily basis, and it only shows the errors though. So anything that is not anything that's a 400 series or 500 series error code will appear in this graph. Then we've got response times. So over that time period, our minimum response time was 217 milliseconds. Average response time was about 1.8 seconds, and our maximum response time was 3.4 seconds. So this is the total time it takes from the time the call hits the gateway to the time we serve the response back out. And then we've got a line graph that maps those 3 values over time for the week. We can see how many times the API has been called, a total of 252 times in the time period, and we can see what that call count is on a daily basis over that time period in the last graph. Okay, and the last thing we want to look at is the plan. So I'm going to have a look at this plan here. And what this plan shows me is that there were 511 API calls in the last time period against this plan by 2 subscribed apps. And if I scroll down to the rate limit graph, then you can see I've got 2 graphs, one for each of the apps. And what this shows is the rate limit that was set, which is 100. And I can see the max rate limit count for that API over time. And the max rate limit count is the highest number of calls that it reaches in the time period. Where the graph goes above the purple line, that means that I've exceeded the rate limit. So those would have resulted in those 429 rejections. And that's what those 2 bottom graphs are showing you. Okay, just a few things. In the last call, we mentioned that we're using Standard Kibana. Well, I should say a customized Kibana, not a Standard Kibana. But most of what you see in here is stuff that is done in Standard Kibana. So just to show you a few things, the first is the time picker. So in the top right-hand corner, we can expand the time picker, and that gives us a number of different ways in which we can specify the time range over which we want to see the data. So these are all the quick time ranges, last 90 days, 60, 30, so on and so forth. We can do a relative one, so we can say from now going back 7 days, or you can see we can go seconds, minutes, hours, whatever you want to do, and that'll produce a relative one. And if that's not good enough, we can specify an absolute one, where we specify the start and end date, and we can set the time down to a millisecond level, and it will select the events based on that. Now, another feature that's in the time picker is this auto refresh. It only appears when the time picker is visible. So if I collapse the time picker, you see it's gone. If I expand the time picker, the auto refresh comes back. So for the auto refresh, if I click on it, I can set a refresh interval. At the moment, it's set to off. So if we set it at 5 seconds, then what it'll do is it will refresh the graphs on a 5-second interval. At any time, I can pause that refresh, and I can restart it again by pushing the play button. And I'm going to turn it back off again. Okay, there is one further way that you can specify time range, and that is you can just select an area in the graph. So if I wanted to just zoom in on, if I want to zoom in on this area here, I can just do that. And you'll see that what it does is it will redraw the graph over that new selected time frame, and it changes my time at the top here to an absolute time that matches the area that I selected. Okay, I'm just going to set that back to 7 days.
So, Graham, a quick question about dependencies here that these timings. So it seems that NTP set up on the management node is a requirement in order for this to properly reflect time. Is that a true statement?
Well, yes. You should have your whole system in sync. The events are actually recorded in UTC time by the gateway. If the clock on your machine is out, then will it make a difference? I'd have to have an experiment to see exactly what the impact will be. It will actually make a difference, Mike, but I'm not exactly sure how much of a difference it will make.
Okay.
So I will have a look and a play with it and get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that's the time picker. Now, behind each of these graphs, there is a set of data. And if you want to see the data down at the bottom, you can see we've got these little up arrows. If you click that, what it does is it gives you a table, and that effectively is just a table containing the data points that have been graphed. You can cycle your way through them and go and look at all the data points. What you can do as well is you can tell it to list all the data points in the table. And then when you do that, you have the option of exporting those data points if you want to, and it will give you a CSV file, which you can then open up, and it will give you the data points in a table, so you can play with them if you want to. These values here are, what do they call it, epoch time, so that's why they're coming up with funny values for the date and time. Sorry, so you'd have to do something to format those back to an ISO 8601 date format. Okay, so let's just close that down. Right, a couple more things on the user interface. As I've been moving around, you've probably seen, actually let me go to a better graph to demonstrate these on. Sorry, let me go back here. So you can see that when I hover over things, I'm getting tooltips, okay, and those tooltips will give me the values that are used for that particular part of the visualization. On this page, just to warn you, you can see the API name comes up twice. There is a reason for that, and unfortunately not a lot that I can do about that in this release, and it's to do with the way that the visualization is drawn. But ordinarily, you would just see 3 fields in there. You'd see a count of 37, the API name is jewelry, and the date time per day says that this is 37 instances of the jewelry API being called within the 24 hours up to March the 25th. Now, on the right, if you look at the legend, if I hover over the legend, then you can see that the particular graph that I'm hovering over will be brought to the fore, and the others will be pushed to a background, just to make it sort of stand out. So if you have a lot of data on the screen and you want to isolate some particular element of it, then you can use this technique to do that. Similarly, on the graph, if I select one of the items, then you'll see that that item in the legend will actually highlight. So that's pretty cool when you want to look at things. If you want to get rid of the legend, you can just click on the little arrow, that will collapse it, or you can bring it back again by clicking on the arrow in the opposite direction. What you can do that's quite cool as well is you can filter using the legends. So let's say I wanted to view the same page in these graphs, but filtering on longboards. I could click on longboards, and you can see this little green bar appears, which is a filter, and it says filter where the API name is longboards. And you can see my graphs have changed now. So the longboard API only appears in the surfboard product. And you can see that this whole dashboard is now scoped to just including events that have an API name of longboard. Okay, another way that you could do that is using the search bar. And I'm sorry, the search bar is, again, there's a little bug in this, in that what we would like is the search bar to look like that. But unfortunately, it inserts the asterisk at the moment, and I still have to fix that little problem. But if we take the previous example, so this will take a Lucene query string and allow us to filter based on that Lucene string. If you want to see what the names of all the fields in the API event record are, then they are actually documented in the Info Center, so you can see them there. But let's say we wanted all APIs, we want to scope the dashboard to all APIs with an API name of hoodies, and then if we did that, then you should see that it has the same effect as applying the filter. There is a subtle difference between the two, and I'll try and remember to show you that when I do a create visualization as to what the difference is between the two. If I want to clear that, unfortunately, at the moment I have to put a star back in there. If I just enter the field, then it won't clear the filter. Okay, so going to the menu options, the first is load a saved dashboard. So if I've created a dashboard and I want to load it, I can do it here. This will list the dashboards, and when there's more than the number that can fit on the page, then buttons will appear to allow you to scroll through them. So just as a matter of interest, I'll load the product default dashboard from here, and it gives it different colors. So let's go back to the overview dashboard. Right, the second button along is to create a new dashboard. If you click it, it'll give you an empty dashboard, and from here you can either use this button, or you can use the one that says click the button to add a visualization to the dashboard, or you can use the one in the menu bar to add a visualization. And then it's a simple case of selecting the visualizations that you want to add. There is a filter at the top here as well, so if I type in, it will scope the list to names that only contain that string. So you can see, let's put subscribed apps in there. Okay, so this one tells you that it can't be viewed because it's too small to render. So the message is quite clear. If I make it bigger, I'll get to a point where I can see the data on the graph. Okay. If I want to create a new dashboard, a new visualization, the way that I do it is through the Add Visualization button again. And you'll see that we have a Create Visualizations option at the top here. Now, just a word of warning, if you create a new dashboard and you want to go and create a new visualization to put into that dashboard, at this moment in time, you have to save the dashboard before you go to the Create Visualizations, otherwise your customizations will be lost. And so this is something that we will have to figure out how we sort that out in the workflow, but the reason why it is like it is just in changing the way Kibana does things, we haven't quite got all the little bits and pieces ironed out. Okay, so I'm going to save this dashboard as demo dash, and then I'm going to go and create a visualization. Oops, sorry, create visualization. Okay, so these are all the different types of visualizations that you can create. Now, one of the really cool things that we get for free using the full Elastic Stack is that we've got geo-IP data. So I'm going to create a visualization, and I'm going to plot all the client IP addresses on a world map. So if I pick geo coordinates and I want the client geo-IP location, and I push play, and then you'll see I've got a whole lot of little dots. Now, I'm going to make I prefer heat maps, they look nicer, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to make my graph look a little bit more colorful. And what I want to do is change the opacity of the heat map up to here somewhere so I can get a bit of red on it. Maybe not quite as much as that. There we go. Okay, so now I've got a heat map. And I'm going to save this visualization as heat map. Just to show you some things about the visualization. Well, actually, let me do it from the dashboard page. So let's close that down, and let's add that visualization to our dashboard. And let's put it big on top. Okay, so when I look at the dashboard, what I can do is zoom in on areas. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a geographic area, and I'm going to tell it I'm only interested in API events in Australia. And what it should do is not what it's done. Okay, I didn't expect it quite to do that. Right, let me come back here. I'm going to try what I just did from here. No, it's not going to cooperate.
So Graham, this piece you're showing here with the map, that's in GA?
Yes, it is in GA.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So you can go and create those maps if you want to. Okay, well, given that time is so short, I'm not going to try and get it to work. Effectively, what I wanted to do was to scope the events so that I only show the events applicable to Australia and then zoom in on it. But it's going to take me too much time to figure out what I'm doing wrong. So I'll let you guys go and play with it. But you can see that you can zoom into a geographic region. You can go and find out, where active areas are in terms of people using the events from the client IP address. Now, what it does mean as well is that if you include geo IP information or geo information in the HTTP headers of the payload body, you'd also be able to map those onto this map as well. Okay. What was next? So just very quickly, the Kibana editor, the creating visualizations, this is a standard Kibana editor. When you go and create it, as I said, this is all standard Kibana. If you want to go and learn how to create visualizations, then you can go to the elastic.co website, and if you go to learn, they've got, sorry, get it right. If you go to videos, then you'll see that there's a really good Kibana 101 getting started with visualizations. I'd recommend you go and have a look at that and sort of learn a little bit about how those visualizations work. Okay, what was the next thing I wanted to show you? Oh, yes, the sharing thing. So we've created our dashboard. Let me close that. And we want to share the dashboard. If we click on the share button, it gives us various links. Now we can either, the top one is an iframe and the bottom is exactly the same link, but not in an iframe form. But what is kind of cool, and this comes as a side effect, is that if we wanted to create a proper dashboard, we can go and paste that URL into a browser. What it'll do is it'll prompt you for credentials, which I will put in. But what you'll get is that that dashboard displaying in the window. So if you wanted to now create a nice big dashboard that everybody can see on a big screen somewhere, what you can do is change to, well, firstly we can set the time picker, put an auto refresh of, let's say, 30 seconds on it, and then we can put this thing into full screen mode, and I'm sorry, I'm out of my depth here because I'm on a Windows system again. I don't know how you do that on Windows, but effectively what you then have is just that dashboard displaying on the page on its own, and that's a pretty cool thing to do. Okay, what else have I got to show you? We're pretty much on the half hour done. One last thing to show you is if I go to either the open dashboard or the create new visualization, you'll see there's a manage option. So from the from the add visualization button, you go to the same place as you would from the open dashboard one, and takes you to this manage saved objects page. You can see I've got dashboards and I've got visualization. So from here, I can export all my visualizations, and it'll export them to a JSON file and download them, or I can import all my visualizations. I can import an exported visualization and it'll populate it. I can also do this on an individual basis by clicking those and clicking the export selected button, which in this environment doesn't seem to be working, so I'll have to check that out. Okay, and I think that's a full detour of the API Manager. The other places that you will see analytics is if I look at the CMC, if I log into that, the first page that I'll be given are service statistics. So these are very similar to the ones that were in the product in version 4. Why did that not work? CMC. There we go. Okay, so there is a bug on these graphs as well, in that the gateway service doesn't show any data at this point, and that's because we renamed the fields and didn't sync it up with the graph itself. So that will be rectified in the very first fix pack that goes out. And we'll also tidy up these names a bit. But you basically get 3 graphs. This is for the service overview. You get the memory usage, the CPU usage, and the disk usage on the system. What we haven't got yet, but which we will be adding, is the ability to launch to an individual server from this page. So you can expect to see a little graph button appearing next to these actions at some point in the near future. The last one that I wanted to show you was the developer portal, but I'm not sure how to show you because I'm on a Windows system and I couldn't get etc. hosts edited. Let me just quickly see if I can save this file, because it would be good to complete it with this. So,
yeah, I seem to remember when I've done this in the past to change the etc host on a Windows or just the host file in Windows, is that I have to save it like somewhere else outside that directory where the host file is stored at, and then and then copy it in there, and then it'll ask you for the the admin, do you really want to do this prompt?
Okay, well I'll try save because I'm in an elevated command prompt, so it may no, it's read only, it won't do it. Okay. I think I'm going to have to skip on the developer portal, but there is analytics data in the developer portal. So if you go into the developer portal, you can see 3 graphs showing, I think it's response times, data usage, and I can't remember what the third one is. But they all work. They tie up properly, so you can view them there. Okay, and I think that's 5:35, Mike.
Okay.
That was the Whirlwind tour.
Great. Thanks, Graham. Sorry again for the technical issues. So let's open up for a couple questions here. So hit *1 to unmute and go ahead and fire away. Any other questions out there? Did I miss any in the chat? Okay. Well, Graham, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today. Again, we'll get this video out there, and I'll. Yeah. So you had mentioned at one time about having a couple charts ready on this. I was wondering if you.
Yes, I haven't done the charts yet, but I will put some charts together for the interest stuff that I talked about last week that I didn't have charts for. I will get some ready and get them to you at some point.
Okay,
maybe before you go, I just have one quick question. So I see that you showed on from a particular catalog you can kind of filter stuff and looking for individual APIs. So one thing I really like in the API management, the current product is that you can, from one dashboard, you can kind of drill into individual developer organizations, to drill into individual APIs, drill into individual applications. Is that something available in this Kibana, new Kibana? Or I have to jump between my environment to my product and go to my individual APIs?
So I'm not sure when you say that it's available in the existing product.
I mean V4.
Right.
So in V4 you have one analytics page, right? So where you
Correct.
can say, okay, I want to select all the APIs from a particular environment. I want to select a particular developer organizations. I want to select the individual apps. So I can, in one place, I can drill into individual details. So for this new analytics engine, is that something available? I have to move between catalog, product, plan, APIs, different places.
So the previous version, if I'm not mistaken, was scoped to an environment, which is effectively the old name for a catalog. So the same rules apply in the new version. If I go to the analytics page, then I have a search bar, and I can tell it to look for API events with a specific, for example, you can scope it on an API name or an app name or a developer org name or whatever you want to. And it will then scope the result down to, whatever filters you put on there. And you can put multiple filters on. So you can say, API name is some value and app name some other value, and it'll do the scoping for you. The thing that's slightly different at the moment is that in the old one you could get down to actually seeing the details of the API event record. And because we changed the default behavior of Kibana, we took out the search page, or the discover page, I should say. You don't have the ability to do that in the UI at this moment in time, but that is something that we definitely are going to look to put back in. The reason why it's not in really was to do with securing the system. We had to work out how we could secure it so that, because Kibana is not multi-tenant, how we could secure it so that people couldn't view data from other catalogs and other organizations. But as soon as we've worked things out, as I say, the intent is to give you that ability to view the details of individual API events, so that you can, scope down to an individual event and then see what it's got in it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, Graham, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
That's the last. Yep. Was there another one? Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close. So thank you. This is the last session for today. We have a session scheduled for tomorrow, a couple of them. One is on data power, and there's another one on Bluemix, I think. But thank you all for coming today, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks.
Cheers, Mike.